Hello there, you're now with me, Shel Shamnato for TVS Nightline. As always, thank you for joining us tonight. Now on to the headlines. The incessant heavy rainfall in Kuching since Friday has raised concern again about the possibility of a flood situation. However, early this morning, TVS crew members found that areas around Kuching City, including the main roads, were not flooded. Even Kuching Barrage water level was seen to be steady, though Batu Kitang Barrage received increasing water volume, especially during peak hours. A survey of the areas around Kampong Bintawa found that a few village residents had started taking precautionary measures by moving their essentials from their homes to higher ground.
Macam tu aja, ni ada cara lain. Main angkat barang di atas tinggi sikit je lah. Angkat tinggi di dalam rumah ya. Macam ya, macam gelombang, macam tsunami.
Barang habis kami silalik lah. Bang penting kami dah gumpul, kami data katil nang kami dah gumpul dah apa-apa bang perlu kami endang gumpul endang data katil kami kalau apa-apa hal kami angkat aja macam lah.
Meanwhile, according to the Deputy Operations Director of Sarawak Fire and Rescue Department, Hendry Ardimansyah, although the condition in a few areas was seen to be prone to flooding, the situation was still under control.
Untuk makluman semua, bahawa pada masa kini situasi di Kuching khasnya dan di Sarawak amnya adalah dalam keadaan terkawal. Memang kita ada menerima beberapa kata orang laporan air naik, tetapi kita masih dalam situasi terkawal. Di Kuching misalnya, di Kampung Stas memang kita ada misi memindahkan satu warga emas daripada Kampung Stas ke rumah saudaranya. Setakat ini TVS Pusat Penempasan Senaran masih lagi belum dibuka dan situasi atau banjir ataupun keadaan hujan ni masih lagi dalam pemantauan dan pematian pihak bomba lah.
However, the Fire and Rescue Department will continuously monitor the situation closely for any flood occurrence.
Kita bimbang khawatir kiranya hujan itu bertembung dengan air pasang tinggi. Jadi kita ambil langkah berjaga-jaga, bukan setakat di peringkat agensi di peringkat bomba, di peringkat agensi yang lain, tapi saya minta juga sarankan kepada masyarakat, ahli-ahli masyarakat yang lain untuk sama-sama bersedia sekiranya berlakunya keadaan banjir. Di peringkat agensi, di peringkat bomba, kita ada SOP kita ada patuan kita. Dalam keadaan musim sekarang ini, pemantauan berkala terus dilaksanakan melalui 34 balai kita di seluruh Sarawak ini. Dalam masa yang sama juga kita mengambil inisiatif bukan setakat kita memantau amaran daripada Met Malaysia.
Dan ini kita jangka dia akan berterusan sehingga malam ini, iaitu 30 hari bulan Januari. Tetapi kalau ada keperluan lagi, kita akan kemas kini kemudian lah. Tapi untuk masa ini sehingga tengah malam hari ini. Dan juga dia tidak dilupakan bahawa kejadian air pasang besar memang sudah berlaku, sekarang ini pun tengah berlaku, dan besok yang paling tinggi lah kalau kita faham, kita maklumkan bahawa dalam 6.0 meter tinggian dia. Dan kita harap hujannya akan berkurangan mulai besok supaya tidak memberikan dari segi limpahan air sungai dan juga air laut lah.
The flood situation was expected to continue tonight. Meanwhile, the infrastructure preparation process for vaccine storage and distribution at selected facilities were expected to be completed on February 19. A total of 13 units of ultra-low temperature storage facilities, or ULTF, had been received at the health facilities of the Ministry of Health and the Malaysian Army throughout the country.
Okey, untuk seluruh negara, kita akan membeli 55 buah lah. Seluruh negara. Dan 9 akan diletakkan di Sarawak. Di Sarawak, semua division akan dapat 1. Kuching cuma 2. Dan 1 kepada military, army, ATM. Cuma di Kapit tidak ada. So, for the state kita ada 8. 2 di Kuching, and then the rest all the other divisions ada except Kapit. Ya, Kapit akan dapat daripada tempat lain lah.
Aaron added that the health personnel who are involved will undergo special training which will focus on vaccine products management and the implementation of vaccine distribution.
The nationwide latihan will be conducted from 2nd of February next week lah. Jadi yang kita buat the 2 demonstration itu pun sudah memadai untuk as a simulation how to handle the thing, and then the actual process of handling the vaccine untuk semua pegawai yang ditetapkan untuk handling vaksin itu akan dibuat on the 2nd of February, dan di satu tempat itu only 2 orang pegawai yang akan ditetapkan untuk handling vaksin ini.
Aside from Belaga being chosen for the dry run on Friday, Bintulu also underwent a similar activity. Meanwhile, Aaron said that the dry run was important as preparation before the COVID-19 vaccine is received by the health authorities for actual distribution. Now on to the COVID-19 developments as Malaysia reported its biggest daily rise in coronavirus cases for a second straight day, with 5,728 new infections recorded on January 30. The Health Ministry also reported 13 new deaths, raising the total number of fatalities from the pandemic to 746.
The state of Selangor was the worst hit, with 3,285 cases, while Kuala Lumpur reported 480 new infections. There were another 792 cases in Johor, while Sabah registered 263. However, 3,805 cases were reported to have recovered, bringing the total number of recoveries in Malaysia to 161,527. A total of 319 cases were in intensive care units, with 120 patients intubated, according to Malaysia's Ministry of Health on Twitter. 60 new COVID-19 clusters were reported today, comprising 13 at workplaces and 3 in the community. This brings the total number of clusters in the country to 807.
Now, according to the Sarawak State Disaster Management Committee, or STMC, Sarawak recorded 1 COVID-19 death in Song District. This brings the total number of fatalities in the state to 37.
The 37 death reported was case number 3,956, a 41-year-old local woman from Song District. The disease was a person with a disabilities and had a history of comorbidities such as high blood pressure, asthma and obesity. Her condition deteriorated rapidly and she died on 27 January 2021. Meanwhile, Sarawak recorded 191 new cases today. Sibu recorded the highest number with 81 cases, Kanawit with 38 cases, Bintulu 16 cases, Matu 12 cases, Song 8 cases, Kapit 7 cases, Sarikai and Samarahan recorded 5 cases each, Miri and Bukit Mabong 4 cases each, Kuching, Beluru and Dalat 2 cases each, while Daro, Belaga, Selangau and Maradong reported 1 case each.
Now, following the next update, as State Disaster Management Committee Chairman Dato' Ahmad Douglas Uga Amba said on Friday that Sarawak was satisfied with the facilities at various hospitals for COVID-19 treatment.
Uga said the state was aware of the need to increase the capacity of various hospitals throughout Sarawak, including for daily screening, which had been increased from 2,500 to 5,000 tests. Moreover, STMC advisor Dato' Sri Dr. Sim Kui Hian said the Ministry of Health had set aside urgent funds totaling 57 million ringgit for the upgrading of facilities and intensive care unit beds at government hospitals in Sarawak following the recent surge of COVID-19 cases. Dr. Sim, who is also the local government and housing minister, said 21 million ringgit of that amount was set aside for the upgrading of facilities and equipment equipment as well as regions for various laboratories at government hospitals across the state. Dr. Sim added, the Sarawak government had also allocated urgent funds of 1 million ringgit each for Limbang and Kapit to enable these two divisions to carry out polymerase chain reaction PCR tests at their respective local hospitals.
Now, following the next news, as Singapore will be suspending the reciprocal green lane arrangements with Malaysia, Germany and South Korea for a period of 3 months beginning February 1.
The Republic's Ministry of Foreign Affairs MFA said the government of Singapore would review the reciprocal green lane arrangements at the end of the suspension period. The ministry noted that travellers who had already been approved to enter Singapore under these arrangements can continue to do so. The MFA said the government of Singapore would continue to monitor the global situation and adjust its border measures to manage the risk of importation and transmission of COVID-19 to the community. Besides that, 3 countries, Singapore, also had RGL arrangements with Brunei Darussalam, Indonesia, Japan, as well as 6 regions in China. The RGL aims to facilitate short-term essential business and official travel.
Now, meanwhile, Malaysia's external trade performed fairly well despite the unprecedented global scenario, with exports rebounding in the second half of 2020 compared to the negative growth in the first half of the year.
Minister of International Trade and Industry, Datuk Seri Muhammad Asmin Ali, said this could be attributed to the progressive opening of the economy and gradual recovery of external demand. This was the highest monthly export recorded in 2020 and the second highest export value ever registered after 97.12 billion ringgit in October 2018. Expansion in reports were seen to Singapore, China, United States, India and Hong Kong. In the meantime, total trade in December 2020 expanded by 6.5% to 170.78 billion ringgit as compared to December 2019, while imports increased by 1.6% to 75.04 billion ringgit.
Now, there is a need to develop nurseries that can supply 600,000 trees of various species to ensure the success of the Forest Landscape Restoration Program. Deputy Chief Minister Dato' Amar Awang Tengah Ali Hassan said the state government is committed to the 100 million trees planting campaign, which is part of the Greening Malaysia program by the federal government.
The 78th National Land Council meeting, chaired by the Prime Minister Tan Sri Muhyiddin Yassin, was held online yesterday and attended by state leaders throughout Malaysia. Meanwhile, Awang Tengah, who is also the second Minister of Urban Development and Natural Resources, requested the federal government to consider allocating 20 million ringgit for the purpose under the 12th Malaysia Plan. He also explained on the success of the implementation of one-day land registration in the state and how the Land and Survey Department improved the efficiency of registration by implementing 100% same-day registration in 2020. Awang Tengah added the use of the eLaces portal had also enhanced the capability to deal with land administrative matters in Sarawak.
Now, the Sarawak government always takes into account the voices and aspirations of Sarawakian farmers and has taken steps to further improve their living standard. Assistant Minister of Community Wellbeing, Datuk Francis Hardon Hollis, stated that there were plenty of initiatives channeled to ease the burden of those who were marginalised, especially during the Movement Control Order, or MCO.
One of the initiatives introduced was the state government assistance to farmers, breeders and custodians through the Agriculture Community Outreach Program, or AgriCorp. Datuk Francis Hardon Hollis, who is also Semangang Assemblyman, added that the state government will continuously find ways to improve the people's living standard, especially of communities residing in rural areas, through agriculture activities such as permaculture and homesteading. The Ministry of Welfare, Community Wellbeing, Women, Family and Childhood Development, Sarawak, also lends a helping hand to those in need of such assistance.
Now, Bintulu Member of Parliament Datuk Sri Tiong King Sing yesterday urged netizens not to be irresponsible keyboard warriors during this extraordinary period of COVID-19 pandemic by spreading unverified news. He said that causing public panic could put unnecessary strain on frontliners.
He is certain that the group which perpetrated the spreading are educated and that they are fully aware of the implications of their actions. Hence, he stressed that everyone should act responsibly so as to not sow panic and distress. Furthermore, he said if the people wish to ease the burden of frontliners, he urged them to adhere to the stipulated standard operating procedures. He also reminded people not to go out of the house if it is unnecessary to curb and sever the chain of COVID-19 infections in Bintulu.
Now, the Entrepreneur Development and Cooperatives Ministry, through its agencies, Bank Rakyat and the Cooperative Commission of Malaysia, or SKM, had handed over almost 700,000 ringgit worth of aid to needy groups in Sarawak.
In a statement today, its Minister Dato Sri Dr. Wan Junaidi Tuanku Jaafar said, in trying times like these, all forms of assistance are very much welcome to help lighten the burden faced by those who are in need. SKM has set aside 402,500 ringgit worth of assistance, both in cash and food items, to flood victims and local cooperatives who were affected by flood that hit the state recently. Meanwhile, Bank Rakyat donated 112,000 ringgit worth of back-to-school items to 700 underprivileged students in Sarawak, which is part of its nationwide back-to-school corporate social responsibility drive. 1 million ringgit was also allocated to help in provision of school supplies, including school uniforms, to 6,000 students throughout the country. The bank and its subsidiary Zakat Rakyat Holdings also handed over 21,500 ringgit and 154,350 ringgit worth of zakat, respectively, to more than 1,000 Asnaf families in the Santubong parliamentary area.
Meanwhile, the Sarawak Marine Police have seized smuggled cigarettes and beer worth 702,814 ringgit, including taxes, during a raid at a house at Jalan Trusan at about 3:30 p.m. yesterday afternoon.
Sarawak Marine Police Region 5 Commander ACP Shamsul Qasim said a total of 910,000 sticks of cigarettes of different brands and 128 boxes of crates of beers were seized during the raid. The inspection of the two-story house at the location was carried out by a team of Marine Police members through Ops Landai COVID-19. After waiting for 2 hours and when nobody came to acknowledge the house, the raiding team broke through the door and found the smuggled items. He said the items were kept inside the premise without a valid permit. The case has been handed over to the Cebu District Police Headquarters for investigation under Section 135(1)(d) of the Custom Act 1967.
Now, meanwhile, earlier in January, Sarawak witnessed the death of a fisherman who was killed in a vicious attack by a crocodile. Incidences such as this seem to occur every year. Meanwhile, Lukman Mohammed has the report.
The growing population of crocodiles has seen an increase in the conflict between humans and the reptiles. Lack of food is believed to be a main factor that is prompting crocodiles to attack humans. According to the record from Sarawak Forest Corporation SFC, over 13,000 crocodiles were recorded at Sarawak River in 2016. According to SFC, the number has since increased. From 2013 to 2021, a total of 62 cases of crocodile attack has been recorded in Sarawak. From the number, 47 cases were fatal crocodile attacks on villagers. A month before the end of 2020 and early 2021, Sarawak was shocked by 2 deaths due to crocodile attacks at Kampong Meranik, Samarahan. Kampong Meranik is one of the villages along the Samarahan River, which is less than 150 kilometers long.
Hilang tempat bergantung, terjejas punca rezeki. Itulah keadaan yang dialami oleh Manisa binti Musa, isteri kepada mangsa yang dibaham buaya awal Januari lalu di Kampung Meranik, Samarahan. Meskipun reda dengan ketentuan ilahi, balu kepada Azian Azhar tetap kuat untuk membesarkan anak-anak mereka tak kalah berhadapan dengan cabaran yang semakin mencabar.
Masa tu nang saya adalah rezeki sikit-sikit lah, orang sedekah juga adalah duitnya pun sikit-sikit. Tapi untuk masa panjang ya kita harus fikir lagi lah. Pun PKP pun kami nak bekerja pun susah juga. Sikit pun kami pun nang kurang pelajaran lah, nang sui rumah juga. Tapi kuatkan diri lah demi anak-anak nak. Memang ingin ditemui lah boyak yang besar lah. Jika dapat tolonglah boyak yang besar-besar yang mau dapat ditangkap lah. Sebab pula mengancam akan datang kita si tahu nak. Kita pun mungkin orang lain kita si mau benda yang berlaku dengan sama ya, sebab kami dah merasa kehilangan suami, anak-anak pun merasa kehilangan bapa nak.
Manisa hopes that the crocodiles will be captured as soon as possible for the sake of others. Following the increase of crocodile attacks in the river, the fishermen in the affected community expressed their concerns about their affected livelihood due to the crocodiles.
Ya, pendapatan memang terjejas lah, memang terjejas benar lah. Sebab saya dah kata nang sebab punca kami dulu nang di sungai, oleh kerana kini tu kami dah siapa di sungai lagi macam ni kerana cari apa pekerjaan sebagai menganti nak jadi nelayan.
Setakat ni tidak turun ke air dan siapa-siapa yang terutamanya untuk nelayan apa semua mencari sumber pendapatan, kita orang hanya untuk dekat jambatan ini saja untuk mencari sumber pendapatan tersebut untuk mencari udang, ikan. Kalau ada lah, kalau tidak ada lah.
This concern may not end if there is still no special approach in handling the situation. Therefore, the role of Sarawak Forest Corporation SFC is essential in monitoring the population of the reptile.
We do our best di Sungai Sarawak daripada jambatan gantung sampai ke barrage. Kalau ada boyak, kita akan remove it, dikeluarkan. Ada komplain, kami akan with all our best effort, we will take it out.
Manusia atau buaya, siapa yang harus mengalah? Sentiasalah kita untuk berwaspada terhadap ancaman haiwan-haiwan buas tak kira di mana kita berada. Laporan Lukman Muhammad bersama juru kamera Awang Azmel dari Kota Samarahan untuk TVS.
And that concludes our special report segment for tonight. And that wraps up TVS Nightline for tonight. Here with me, Shal Chamiato. As always, thank you for tuning in to your local news tonight. I'll see you next time and have a good weekend.